Good morning, traders. It is Wednesday, October 13th, 2021. I am here in Colombo, Sri Lanka. It's 11:53 a.m. and I am going to break down a few pairs. Let's get started. It's the midweek technical breakdown, and this is going to be quite a big one. So get your notepads and pens and pencils and start to take notes on this video. Leaving off from my last video, I had broken down that I was bearish Eurgbp, and I did ride the bear trend for several days leading into this week. Eurgbp started making a bottom, as we can see. I'm going to zoom in so everyone can see a little bit more clear what I'm showing. So Eurgbp came in pretty hard off of the drop. That drop is now completed, and at the moment we're seeing a bottom formation happening right now. So if you got into Eurgbp back at towards the end of September and you got that evening star, bearish engulfing pattern, and you were able to catch the pullback leading into the current price, then you had a really good move, really good setup, and congratulations on taking that trade. That was me. Now we're going back into a consolidating market that can get very tricky. So now is the time that we look into the smaller time frames to find out our next directional bias, if it's whether going to go back towards the upside or if it's going to continue to go towards the downside and make further lows. So that's where we're sitting at right now on the daily. It's indecisive, and there are lows that still need to be broken. So until these lows around August lows are broken, we should suspect price to continue on towards the upside or bouncing on within that range. So I am waiting for these lows to be broken on the daily, but in the meantime, you can definitely play the range that is currently being tested. So there's about 40 plus pips towards those until those lows are hit, and there's a giant 100 plus pips towards the upside potential. So that's all I'm really going to highlight on this. I also have a resistance band dragged above around 0.86 psychological zone. I had that from earlier. That was from another time frame, but that is another key level. That is not my target. That is just a key area, meaning that there can be potential reversal or profit taking at that level. But my target, if I was buying this right now based off of the daily, would be all the way up towards 0.864. But like I said, my long-term bias is bearish on Eurgbp. So instead of looking for a long up to there, I'm only looking for a long based on the intraday. And I'm going to do that. I'm going to go to that in a second. But before I do that, let's zoom out so we can see what I meant by bearish. You zoom out, you didn't see the left side of the chart. But this entire year, the market has been going on a steady decline. So I do suspect price to continue down towards the downside. Now, let's go into the smaller time frame so we can see where my entry, exit, and target of this scalp was. So we can see that there's lows that has not been broken yet. This has been happening for the past week. We see that price made its last successful drive towards the lows on October 7th. And ever since then, it's been bouncing around that area each and every day, that 7th to the 8th in every session. It actually drove down to lower lows and stop hunted any potential buyers that had stop losses right there. And it also has retail sellers that it grabbed. I explained in my previous video. If I did not, I apologize, but I did have a sell order down below on the 11th, and the sell order was prematurely tapped because I failed to have the order a little bit lower than where it should have been. I did not recognize Sunday's low as a failure to close below that low. So since Sunday did not have a successful close below last week's low, it actually drove price up. And then when price did drive back down towards my entry was based off of, I placed my entry from last week, so I didn't really see Sunday's low. Long story short, I should have seen it and I didn't, and that's kind of what happened. and my stop was slightly above retail zone, and I got whipsawed. And now we're currently seeing the market with a huge pin bar towards the upside. It looks like it's going to make its way back down. I'm going to explain that in a moment. I was just in this buy scalp for a very short term. I was actually looking at the 5 minute and lower, but I'm going to get out of that buy right now because I don't believe price is going to go up. I believe price is actually going to go down, and this was just a quick scalp, like I said. So getting into the actual trend and getting us ready for the London session, because the London breakout happens in 1 hour. So we want to prepare ourselves for the London session. We see that there's lows currently being respected, and we are in a currently bearish market. So until those lows are broken, we can't suspect a continuation. What we can see is some potential pullback and a rejection from a resistance. So that's what we're going to look at today. We're going to look at the resistance where price came from, and we're going to look for the potential rejection from that resistance. That's what we're going to be basing our sell order off of and placing our stop. So right now we see price is currently on a down move. We see that there was one attempt towards the high, there's another attempt towards the high, and a rejection both times. So what that's telling me is that that's a potential resistance zone. One more attempt up here and a rejection, then we can solidify that. That's where I have my 100. That's from the Fibonacci retracement. Go over that in a minute, but let's just do this. Bam. So right there, where I just marked that red horizontal line, price that went back up on the 11th. That was the day it grabbed my short order and went for a stop hunt. So it grabbed my short order along with many others, went for a stop hunt and stopped out sellers. And right after that, the market started to tether out into the next day. So the U.S. session actually ended. It went into Asia. Asia painted new highs. Didn't really go up too high, but it was definitely a manipulation of 20 plus pips. And at that point, the highs of last week was respected, and the market started to drive back down to the downside. So this is our move of the week right here. And from this point on, I do suspect price to continue to drive down, but I need to find out a good area to sell from. So if we do look at the most recent rally towards the upside, which happened yesterday, we can see price did drive from those highs to the lows. Let me just put the crosshair up. So we have approximately a 40 pip drop from those highs, and you can see it perfectly. The previous resistance became support for a little bit. It attempted to break. It did break out above the support, and then there was a failure. So that indicated that price was going to go down. That was premature stops, sellers that got stopped out. And you can see that if you were a seller, retail seller, they have stops all right here, and some of them even have stops right here. So it was easy to knock these groups out. And then price respected the resistance, also giving a signal that the downtrend is still intact. And it respected the resistance, made a pin bar, a very, very, very big hammer at the top, and then it was followed by a bearish engulfing, creating the 3-pin formation, 1, 2, 3, and it closed with a successful drive below follow through. So this move right here is the signal painted on this time frame to go down. Now, how far down? Well, our goal is to take it farther down to lower lows ultimately. So TP1 would have been right there, 16 pips, in which if you got in on that, you would have been very, very, happy. But the move happened so quick, I was unable to actually get in on that unless I was already speculating from a smaller time frame and got in up here. If I got in up here from a smaller time frame, I would have collected like 30 pips and been out. But because I'm looking at a larger time frame, the close is below a hair, and now the stop is still 5 pips above these highs. So nothing. So this is where my stop would have been placed, and pretty much I would have risked 30 pips for 30 pips. But now price went back up towards the upside, and it retested what became resistance. So resistance was made, it became support, support was broken, resistance was tested, it was rejected. So now this is a new key level resistance. Just as I exited my buy, it's starting to look like it's driving down, That's also because there's another hour left in the European and Asian session, so it's definitely setting up for those moves. So now that we have a respectful rejection off of that resistance, we're basing our next trade off of this right here. We have a bull run into resistance, it was rejected, and now we have a drive towards the downside where price has to close below these lows right here to show a continuation. So for me personally, if I were to enter a trade chasing the market, I would definitely have a sell order down below right there. But I don't chase the market, so unfortunately, price isn't in a favorable point position for me to take a trade and only collect 9 pips. And what would I be risking? 40 pips to collect 9 pips. So to me, that's not a favorable move. And so I have to look at the larger time frame to see where I can actually potentially go. Looking at the 4-hour, it looks like, it doesn't really look too favorable. It looks like it just kind of went to a range bound market from last week until present. Looking at the daily, it looks like it's currently sitting at some lows. So even though we have a really good signal, I don't really believe that these are going to be broken today. And if it does, it's probably going to make some sort of continuation drive. If we do have the Fibonacci zone pinned down from the most recent drive, most recent swing, we can see that there's a potential profit target down below, but that profit target is still not enough pips for me to want to take this trade. So my thesis on this pair is that overall, still bullish, but will I take a trade today? No, because based off of what I can see is that, yes, we definitely would like to see this desirable outcome where price breaks the lows of this year and continues to the downside, but we do know that playing defense, there's a potential rally after every drop. So this is just nothing else, nothing but another potential rally. So if I enter a short right now, I might be able to get in on some pips, but I'm about overall bearish, but for the current move right now, it looks like it might potentially be going up. That's why I had a buy in, because I already seen that the market was potentially going to go up from that point. But I don't have a, how would I put it? I didn't have a strong opinion towards the upside. That's why I closed that trade out. Now, after going over this video, we can all see where I believe price is going to go, and I'm basing my trade in this video off of the daily. So this is today alone. We see price ended U.S. session, ended at some lows. So price respected U.S. lows as of yesterday. That is going to be our support zone. So if you make your stop loss, and I'm going to do a live trade in this video, but if you make your stop loss based off of yesterday's lows, or Asia's lows already been broken, so Asia's lows was broken in London. London ran down and painted further lows and created a low of the day yesterday. U.S. went to retest those lows and it failed to break those lows. So based on an intraday cycle, I do believe that this is going to continue to drag price up towards the 12th highs, which was yesterday's highs, which is, now is this a favorable trade? 30 pips, I do believe so. So this is a favorable trade. Buying it from support, and I'm going to do this right now. Drop a 0.6, and pretty much my first target is going to be where it's pretty obvious, 28 pips away. My stop loss is going to be 5 pips below this low because spread and stop hunts. So that's going to be my stop loss. This is going to be my buy order. Now this is going to be my first profit target. I'm going to explain where I'm going to extend this over to next. So let's continue with the narrative. So after U.S. lows was tested, I'm going to see how we're doing on time as well. Okay, 15 minutes. Going to wrap this up soon. After U.S. lows was tested, what do we have now? We have a break towards the upside where previous resistance became support. It held for a little while, as we can see, and is currently holding, testing that support. Now, I don't want to get into the minute time frame because it's too fast moving for me right now at the level of reading that I'm at right now. So I'm only going to leave it to the 5. And yeah, like I said, TP1 will be right there, 10, 11 pips. I already foresee this being broken. Looking at the 15-minute though, that's going to be my daily target. So if price can definitely get up there, then we're definitely looking good. Now, looking at the larger time frames, such as the 30 minutes, I would like to see where this was leading into. So we see that there was a bull trend. Let me go into the 4-hour. So the 4 hours is too congested to see what's going on in the 30 and hour. So I'm going to go back into the 30-minute. And I'm going to draw a fib zone off the basis of swing low with swing high. I'm going to do my projection of that fib to get my target. And this is going to be my daily target, that my desirable target right here. So I would like to take price up towards 0.85275, but it's more than likely going to at least reach 0.85145 before making some sort of rejection back towards the downside or breakout inducing longs. And we need some space above to get to trap more bulls if price is ultimately going to go down. And at that point, I do believe the Eurgbp will pick up its pace and make new lows and continuous weekly trend. If we look at the weekly time frame, continue the weekly time frame at that point towards the downside. Because in order to really get price to move on these bigger time frames, we need to build up momentum from the lower end time frames before we're able to get that signal on the larger time. So I hope this makes sense to you all, and I will follow up at the end of the week. Hopefully I can start making more frequent videos because my trading time duration is becoming shorter, and I will just continue to update you all along my journey and share my progress with everyone. Have a good day.